Warhammer versus Marauder. Two iconic mechs. Two of my favorite mechs.
The classic.
We're continuing our head-to-head BattleTech analysis here. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
Oh, yeah. A more classic duel you'll never find.
I've got love. I've got a lot of love for both of these machines.
Same.
In any given game of significant battle value, there's a good chance I'm going to be fielding a Warhammer. There's a good chance I'm going to be fielding a Marauder. If it's a higher battle value game, there's a good chance I'm going to be fielding both of these mechs.
Yeah. I'll pause here at 34. These guys are kind of like what I refer to as evergreen heavies. Every weight class just has things that are just solid. You know they're good. You don't have to think too hard about it. Just pick one of these and you'll be fine. And the Warhammer and the Marauder definitely wind up into a lot of my force lists, whether that's the Warhammer 2C or the Marauder 2 variants of. Yeah, so let's continue anyway.
I have good tabletop experience in that if I'm playing a game with you and you're my mech commander,
sure,
and you've got me piloting a Warhammer, I think I can deliver against a variety of targets. Similar with a Marauder, although while they do share the dual PPCs, there is a significant difference in playstyle. But the one thing that they share, heat management.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here.
Now I pushed up
59. I have opinions about the heat management between the Marauder and the Warhammer, especially in this duel, but I have a feeling just in my guts that he's going to come back to this, so I don't want to have to repeat myself. So I'm going to press play again here in just a second and see if I'm right. Let's continue.
Pushed up to my BattleTech channel here under the playlist, exploring the Warhammer, exploring the Marauder. You can dive deeper into that Tactica. We're looking head-to-head. And the presentation of this and the previous vlogs is such that we're part of a lance, we're going in, things happening, missiles, lasers. Across from you is that Warhammer. Across from you is that Marauder, or that perspective, or whatever mechs we're going head-to-head.
Sure.
You've got to go head-to-head. There is no reinforcement. It's just you taking head-to-head. So what we're looking at both mechs is this idea of utilizing the PPCs. Inner Sphere Tech, good range, 10 points of damage.
One of the best weapons in the game.
We're looking to normally chain fire these, meaning as we're approaching. And I'm not necessarily in any hurry to engage to medium or short range to bring my medium lasers, missiles, or other things into play, unless it's something like a dedicated long-range machine. Like if I'm facing a longbow, possibly an archer, I want to close fast. I don't want to be eating missile packs all day, 2 or 3, 4 turns. But if it's another type of mech, then I might be happy to just slow my approach. Or if there's some woods, hang out in some woods. Or if there's a chance to block my feet, my legs, then just park, cut down the movement modifiers, and fire PPCs.
I'll stop here at 232. He's definitely got a point here. That's one of my favorite things to do with these guys is they have such notoriously leg armor that I want to park them behind some kind of level 1 rise or some kind of forest or something like that and just, shoot the particle cannons and say, okay, well, I'll take a little bit of heat for doing this, but if I chain fire them like he was talking about, I'll be okay. So he's bang on there. Let's continue.
1, fire 2, let it cool. Or just kind of 1, 1, or 1, 2, let it cool.
Hold on, let me stop here at 240. The problem that I knew he was going to come back to heat at some point. The problem you're going to face with that Marauder, if we're just talking standard loadout here, MAD 3R Marauder, you fire those 2 PPCs, you're going to go to 4 heat, just standing still. So if you're on the run, which I'm going to assume in this particular duel you're trying to get as much stick out of it as you can. You shoot those 2 PPCs, you're going to jump to 6 heat. You're going to be slow on the move the next turn. And the Warhammer, I believe, comes standard with 18 heat sinks. So it can actually throw these particle cannons on the run, like I say, just trying to get as much stick as possible for a couple of turns before it has to stop and cycle off. I believe you can fire 2 once and you'll go to 4 heat if you're on the run. And then you cycle back to 1, and then you go 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's no problem. You'll never lose any speed. But if you do this in the Marauder, 1, 2, 1, 2, you're going to be slow. And, I mean, like Sergeant Gunther said in the old Mech Warrior 2 Mercenaries training videos, in combat, speed is life. If you go slow, you die. All right, let's pick it back up.
Cool. That barrage. So I could see both of these machines doing that with the hopes of trying to punch through some armor. Now, once we start to close, this is where things get interesting, because the Marauder has a slight advantage long range with that autocannon. As we start to close...
Hold on, pause. 304, I'll pause here. Does it, though? I mean, yeah, it has, you know, the I believe it's 6, 12, 18 range on the autocannon. That's what I was just trying to think of. But those 16 heat sinks make it so that you're throwing 15 damage down range, and the Warhammer is throwing 20. So really, the only benefit you're getting out of that is consistency, because you can throw 15 all the time. It's kind of like my old argument with the Banshee. It's just always going. It's always doing it. And you have 20 shots in that AC5. Game ain't going 20 turns, most likely, if you're in this kind of a situation, so you can afford to do that. You're consistently throwing 15 damage versus the Warhammer throwing 20 damage, but it's only going 20, 10, 20, 10, 20, 10. So I'm still not convinced that the autocannon is that big of an advantage. So anyway, let's continue.
We start to close and we shut down the PPCs to heat management. We've got medium lasers on both machines. Yep. We've got the SRM on the Warhammer.
Yep.
And we've got the autocannon on the Marauder. Similar. Now we've got heat management. So we're kind of...
Pause it here at 324. I don't know if I agree with that, and I'll tell you why. The autocannon, just like the particle cannons, are going to have to pay penalties for firing up close. It has the same minimum range penalties as a particle cannon. It's 1, 2, 3. So when the Warhammer gets in close, you know, it can cycle off of the PPCs entirely and just go full range, short range battery, which I like to say all the short range stuff when I'm playing with it. You got the medium lasers, the small lasers, the machine guns, the SRM-6. Let's not forget that. And that's enough. You can fire all that. You have enough heat to do all that and be on the run, just as blisteringly fast as that thing will go, which is walk 4, run 6, and be able to shoot all that with no penalties, whereas just range and stuff. But the Marauder, one of its huge weight, huge space-taking weapons, its fallback weapon here is going to be paying penalties, and the only thing backing it up is those 2 medium lasers, which I give the advantage to the Warhammer on that one. So let's continue.
So we're kind of, you know, we're kind of equal. We're kind of moving side to side. So what it's going to come down to is, I think at this point, luck. If I face forward to forward and just try to blast each other, the luck of the dice, you know, hey, it's BattleTech.
Right.
Or can one mech warrior or another try to focus fire on a certain side to open things up, or look for possible opening armor up to lead to crit with ammo?
Okay, I'll pause here at 355. He's got a point here. The Marauder is one of the ones that really got the short end of the stick there when the whole rules for heat sinks were changed, that engines could hold a certain amount of them, and that you didn't have to write everything on the record sheet above 10 back in the day when you used to be making these sheets. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, we actually did a video on this where we covered this rule. I'll put it up here on the screen for you so you can have a look at that and check that out. But yeah, when that rule got changed around the very early 90s in the Clan Invasion 1.0, the Marauder really did suffer for it, because in that, I believe it's the left torso, you have that autocannon 5 ammo, and all you got, it's less than 20 damage to get in there too, to get a critical hit. So all you got to do is get into that left torso and roll a 9 or better, and boom, you killed the mech. It's dead. I mean, if it has more than just a couple shots left, and in fact, I think it might survive if it had 1 shell left, but otherwise, yeah, insta-gib. He's dead on the spot, or as the novels would call it, DRT, dead right there. Whereas the Warhammer, has other things in these torsos to pad it out. So definitely shooting at the Marauder from the left side. If we're talking baseline everything, MAD 3R Marauder, WHM 6R Warhammer, yeah, shoot it from the left. He's right. Let's continue.
Exploring those aspects, deliberately trying to weaken at a certain point, so that when we close to medium range or we close to more, we're going to bypass a lot. That's easier said than done, especially if it's 1-to-1, because if you win initiative, the other player is going to be a little defensive. If you lose it, you'll be defensive.
Sure.
Now we push to close range. I can see the Warhammer wanting to push to close range.
Definitely.
To leverage the short-range missiles, to leverage machine guns, to leverage other things, just to throw dice and try to zap once we've lost some armor on that Marauder.
Let's pause that here. It's not just about when you've lost armor on the Marauder. He's right in that you're just trying to throw dice. Like more SRM hits, more machine gun hits, things like that. The more often you have the opportunity to throw hit location dice, the more often you're going to find yourself doing things like rolling through armor criticals or rolling headshots. And believe it or not, folks, there are times when people will get a headshot with a stupid machine gun, plink, plink, 2 points of damage, and then roll snake eyes and fail their consciousness. You're going to be glad you did it then. So it is not as crazy uncommon as you think. Within the realm of all things that are possible, it's frankly pretty freaking doable. So he's bang on there. Let's continue.
That Marauder. The danger here, though, of course, is while the Marauder doesn't lack dedicated super short-range stuff, it can still fire that autocannon.
But at a penalty,
still fire those medium lasers. And the Warhammer's armor is weak on the legs and weak at certain points.
Hold on, I'll stop here. The Marauder's leg armor is weak too. That's not necessarily to take anything away from the Warhammer there. Yeah, it can fire the autocannon, but again, at a penalty, and it's going to be as bad as firing the particle cannons. And again, you're only backed up by 2 medium lasers, while the Warhammer, you both have weak armor, let's just be honest, for a mech of that size. It's not as, thick as it could be. And you have the Warhammer with this bevy of short-range stuff that it can shoot, whereas the Marauder is paying a penalty to fire 3 out of 5 weapons at short range, so 3 or less. So yeah, if you can get into 2 hexes with that Marauder, it's going to be paying for that short range shot like it's medium range, but you're only paying short range for your SRMs, your medium lasers, mid range for your small and machine guns. It's not that bad. So he's paying it for all that, but you got a lot more stuff you can shoot up close. And yeah, sure, you're still having to pay the +2 because you're at medium range, but here's the gimmick. He's only going to have a couple of opportunities to land these shots, while you're going to have, 2, 4, 6, 7 opportunities. So the odds favor you just by sheer numbers alone. You will be rolling dice to hit far more often in the Warhammer than you will inside the Marauder at this range, this very close-up range here.
Certain points. Certainly at long range, I don't want to take those hits, but short range, as we cut down on range modifiers and movement modifiers, because we are limited by heat on both of these machines, what that means is now the Marauder is going to be scoring more hits more often.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop here. You are limited by heat on both of those machines. Yes, that's true. But I believe that the Marauder is more limited on heat than the Warhammer. And I'm going to talk for just a second about how might not that be such a bad thing. And let me say that again. How that might not be such a bad thing. That's what I meant to say. I mean, it's 6 o'clock. I got up early this morning. Give me a break. It's the same argument that I made just a little bit ago about consistency. It's constantly able to shoot this particle cannon, autocannon 5 combo. It can fire it as the day is long for essentially what amounts to the entire game, because like I say, most games ain't going 20 turns, and autocannon 5 ammo is cheap, so who cares about logistics? Whereas the Warhammer, yes, it can fire its particle cannons, its main guns, its big gimmick. Hey, I got a big gimmick. More often than the Marauder, it is a reduced amount of that fire. It can only go 2, 1, 2, 1, whereas the Marauder is going 15 damage, 15 damage, 15 damage, 15 damage. So I got to give it to him on this one. Take and put a little bit more of the advantage toward the Marauder. Let's continue.
Dude, that's a little tough. That's a little tough to eat depending on the location, how that's going to work.
Yep.
So I could see if it's long range to long range, both are going to try and weaken each other. As we close to that medium range, I still see them somewhat evenly matched, although I give it a little bit more to the Marauder because it does have slightly better heat management, not by much. Close range, I start to give it to the Warhammer.
Let's pause here at 537. I think he meant that the other way around. As far as I understand it, the Marauder M83R comes standard with 16 heat sinks, and the Warhammer comes standard with 18. And he also could have been talking about how the fact that the Marauder has that consistency, it can throw that 15 points of damage, whereas the Warhammer has to go 10, 20, 10, 20. So in terms of heat management, he could have been referring to that too. Let's continue.
But the Warhammer has to watch out for its legs and other areas on that perspective.
But so does the
Marauder.
Marauder.
And then, of course, heat for both. What you could think about doing if you're going to push the heat, eject the autocannon ammo. If the Warhammer ejects its ammo, now it's starting to look at it's losing significant weapons. It's losing machine guns.
True.
It's losing your short-range missile pack. So you're downgrading multiple weapon possibilities as opposed to the Marauder, which is only downgrading one. Things go to crits, or if you really need to push the heat to finish it off, then you kind of do what you have to do. So an even matchup, but uneven in certain areas, and depending on range, depending on timing. This is so hard for me to call it, but I'm going to call it then, of course, in the comments.
Let's see what he says.
What you guys think. I'm going to give it to the Marauder.
Oh, snap.
I love the Warhammer. I love the Marauder. I guess it's a win-win. But I'm going to
all right, fair.
To the Marauder.
All right, that's the end of the video. That's totally fair. Let's talk about that. If I were to have to call this match, it's hard. Because you know what? I love the Marauder. If you ask anybody who knows me for 5 minutes, they will tell you. The Marauder is just, it's always been one of my favorites. I'll always have love for that machine. But do I think that it's going to win against a Warhammer more often than not? I don't think it's going to win more often. I think, as Fritz said, it's an even matchup for several reasons. And I'm not going to lie, I went into this wanting somebody to be like a clear, 1, 2, 3, ding, ding, clear winner. But God, it's so hard because I have so much love in my heart space for that Marauder, But the Warhammer, here's how I feel like you got to play this. You got to play this like, if you're in the Marauder, then you're wanting to keep things long range. Those medium lasers are nice, but if you have to use them, you're in trouble. Save them for infantry or something. If you're in the Warhammer and you're facing the Marauder, your gimmick is to get into, those penalty ranges as fast as possible. Either that, or you could take advantage of the fact that the Marauder has less heat sinks than you and kick it in the backfield and fire at it on the way in. Because you can get away with double the amount of dual firing, or dual wielding as they might call it, if you were stationary. Because then you'd only go up by 2 heat every time you did that. You'd get 2 rounds of double firing. So that could be advantageous. It's so tough to call. Okay. I guess if I'm going to have to pick one, I'm going to have to go against my heart, and I'm going to have to go with the Warhammer. And you guys are going to hate me. I'm sure I'm going to get lots of boos, but it was Natasha Karinsky's machine. I got love for the Dragoons. Anybody who's longtime fan of the channel, they saw me play Natasha Karinsky and just utterly annihilate the Grey Death Legion. I'll never forget it. But I got a lot of love in there, so that's what it is for me. But you tell me which one you like better in the comments, and we can go ahead and have ourselves a lively little conversation there. Thank you so much, Wargamer Fritz, for doing everything that you do, for putting these videos out, and for allowing me to riff on them and comment on them and do all that fun stuff, in addition to being entertaining as always. So thank you, sir. And to everybody watching, I'll see you next time out on the Space Lanes.
Be sure to smash our like button and subscribe to our channel.
Crowdfunding is when lots of people give you small amounts of money to help your passion project come to life.